What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Zebec today, ZBCN. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. It is the 7th day of August. We are already 1 week into August. It's crazy. Here we are, $0.0576 on the price, 22 hours, 22 minutes left in the day. Looking like we've got a momentary double top, right? And we're probably going to go to zero because of this. No, that's not what's happening. Looks can be deceiving, right? At one point, this candle here was a double top look until it wasn't. And then as soon as it wasn't, then you came down. You know what I mean? We absolutely can reject from here. I wouldn't even say reject. That's a harsh word. Reject means something like this, right? That would be a rejection. I would say find some turbulence where we perhaps find a higher low, still consolidate in this area, and then break out at a later date. Maybe sometime next week. It is, Thursday after all. We could consolidate between here and the end of this week and going into next week. That could be the breakout point. Very possible. Or perhaps today's the day that we break out. We started off on a bullish note. We've got this scary looking wick at the moment. If today closed like this, it'd be a little bit more incentivizing to go to the downside. But even then, you've moved up in the wake of bearish candles before. You had a very bearish candle here, and you still moved up, man. That was so bearish that it made me bearish. You know what I mean? We were bullish up to this area up until that day. And then from that day, I was bearish, up until, basically up until over here where we got bullish again. But we've been bullish nonstop since then, man. Hitting highs and lows throughout the way, but ultimately bullish nonetheless. Let's look at the 1 hour time frame and figure out, if we can, if the price is in fact going to come down and find a higher low, or if we're ready to break out today. Again, something that we've talked about is that, and I don't talk about this to paint myself in the right light, to make myself sound like someone who knows, yes, so that you guys understand that I know what I'm talking about, but also mainly so that you know what you're talking about. I'm not saying this for my own sake to brag about being right or being wrong. I don't care about that. But remember what I said back here. Remember what I said throughout this time. And I said it less so ever since we got done with, whoa, that was weird. Ever since we got done with this area, I said it less so, but I did say it periodically throughout this time frame here, and we've said it over the past few days especially, is that when we found our low, it would not just be this skyrocket to the moon, right? It would not be an exact, we just pick up where we left off and start moving up at a 10x over a month. That's not exactly how it works, right? I mean, well, maybe a 10x over a month, but not this kind of growth in a week or two, right? What we would likely do after we find our low is meander, right? And again, I'm not saying this, I'm saying that I said this back here, but the reason why I said it back here and the reason why we're focusing on it now is not to be good job, C-Zar. It's to be hey, why did I say that? Why would I think that way? What makes me think that way? Why is that something that I believed to happen, and it has happened? We've meandered, and we've moved up at a good pace, but, higher highs, higher lows, we're dilly-dallying our way up there, not doing something like this, but we're about to get into that moment like this, right? If you understand why I thought that, you might better understand yourself next time whenever something like this happens, what to expect of the price action, so that you don't just expect something like this to happen, and then whenever that doesn't happen and you do something like this, you're caught with your pants around your ankles and you decide to panic sell because you're oh no, it's going to go lower. It's a lower high. It's just in the same range. No. This is very foreseeable. So the reason why is because when you retrace something from a high to a low, typically you move up, you move down, you move up, you move down, you move up, you move down, you move up. That's just what you do through your fib ranges, right? So here, this is a pretty big bounce. You moved all the way up to your 0.5. But typically from there, you would go back to your 382 or your 236 at the most, and you did that. After that, we'd look to find resistance at the next area. You found resistance at your 0.5, so the next area would be the golden ratio. You just missed that, but that's okay. You found support at your 236 before, so the next area you want to stair step and be productive would be the 382 to find support, which you did. You did just that thing. You found resistance at your golden ratio, so the next area would be the 786, 886 zone, which is exactly where you went, right? You did that. 382, you would at least want to find support at the 0.5, but you took it a step further and found support at the golden ratio. All bullish things, all productive. Ultimately leading to this line here, the 886, which is essentially your gatekeeper. Gatekeeper to what? To price action that looks like this, okay? The time to get excited for ZBCN to move up like this, as counterintuitive as it is not at the low, and not just ZBCN, any asset. It's not at the low. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you do move up like that after you find your low. Or maybe you move like that for a short period, but then you continue to consolidate. But the time generally to be excited for faster movement, for that breakout move is when you're actually breaking out of new highs. You start to get excited for that once you break above the 886, and we are almost there. We're almost there. Is it going to happen today? Do we consolidate more? We're going to figure that out in a second. But again, I'm spending so much time on this because I want you as an investor, whoever you are, as a trader, as an analyst of your own right, to better prepare yourself for future instances, not just with Zebec, but with other coins, with other stocks, with anything, right? You don't it's a very, very lovely taste, this kind of bullish price action that just moves up like this. So lovely, in fact, that when we find our low, we think that that's the only way that it moves because we only reminisce the good times. You forget about how methodical and how long and drawn out and boring you were before you actually got to those good times. And this isn't long and drawn out and boring, but if you're expecting something like this, and in the wake of that you get a downtrend like this, you move down 20%, 30%, whatever that was. Let's see, from a high to a low. You move down 31%. That could scare you, and that could cause you to make the wrong decision, right? What you want to do is be in the right decision where you understand, okay, it moved up, maybe, and in that sense, if you understand what's the right decision, if you didn't buy this low, you'll understand, okay, but it is going to meander. It will pull back. I can buy here. Or at the very least, if I bought the high, I won't sell here. It's going to come back. It's going to be methodical and move up. And what does it look like when it's doing that? Well, we explained that, right? Through the fibs. You want to stair step. You want to look productive. And I explained what that looks like. So painstakingly so, I'm addressing this over and over again because I want you guys to learn something too. I want you to not just hear me say price goes up, price goes down, but why I think this, because if you want to learn, you can learn, right? That doesn't mean that you're going to have a crystal ball and know where the price goes every single time, right? I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I've been right before, I'll be right again. But it's about statistical probabilities and what helps back that probability up, right? Anyways, are we moving higher? Are we going to see this phase happen? I think we are, but just when, right? It's very soon, and it could be as early as today. Let's see. 1 hour time frame here. The RSI, I mean, overall is very bullish, but you're kind of looking like you've had 2 attempts now into the overbought zone, and you've tarnished both of those attempts. A little bit of a relative double top. A little bit of a relative double top here as well. You had an uptrend, and you've broken out of that uptrend. Perhaps you do come down. Does that mean that you go all the way down, it's terrible, to the oversold zone? Maybe. You'd probably find support at the 40 or at the 50 or something like that. You know, a lower low in the RSI, perhaps higher lows in the price, which is what you're getting, actually, right? Lower lows in the RSI, higher lows in the price. Yeah, you tried here. You tried. You had the volume come in, but you rejected. Stochastics look a little squirrely. MACD, you know, tapering off a little bit. Yeah, you're probably going to come down, and that's okay. 4 hour time frame, so it's not today that we're looking to break out, right? But soon enough. And what are you going to do if it's not today? Again, you're probably going to come down and find a higher low. That's the expectation, higher low in accordance to this. Watch you break right through that trend line. You find your low there. It's still a higher low, just a slightly higher low, and then you move up, something like that, right? These trend lines don't oftentimes hold as support. It's like just below there that you'll find support. Let's see if we can validate that real quick, right? Like if you take this trend line here from this low to that low, where was the best time to buy? Whenever we started to consolidate, it was actually below the trend line. It was, you know what I mean? It was below. It wasn't at the trend line. If you bought there, sure, it worked out for you. If you just waited, but the best time to buy is below the trend line. So just running with that idea here, when will the best time to buy be? It might not be at 0052. It might be at 0051 or 005 itself. But I highly doubt that we go below 005. Personally, that's not what I expect. Okay. 4 hour time frame, a little bit of a double top on the 4 hour overbought zone. All right, bearish. Overall, very bullish look in the RSI, but you should be doing things here that you were doing here, but you just didn't do it. Right? You should be doing like this kind of stuff. Okay, it says you're doing this. It's weak. It's pathetic. So come down, chill, find a higher low, try again later. Right. To do that, you're going to see the price move down, and this 4 hour candle, at least at the moment, looks rather intimidating to the downside. So I think you will move down. And if we're looking at this too, just for what it is on a price perspective, you moved up, you got right up against this high, and the volume, I mean, the volume is, it's very comparable to what you did here, which is not a lot of volume. You want more volume than that, right? And in these last two candles, you really had a lack in volume. So you didn't have enough volume coming in. 2 hours left in this candle. You've got as much volume as you did on this candle here, and you're coming to the downside. So you're probably going to move lower, right? Stochastics, not bearish yet, but set up to be bearish. The MACD is fine, but you're starting to decay in bullish momentum. Maybe you come down a little bit. You touch tips, and then you begin to run. I don't know what happened. Then you begin to run again, right? Something like that. Like here, you touched tips, and then you ran, right? Here, to the downside, you touched, and then you went down. You touched, and then you went up. You touched, and you went down. You touched, and you went up. You touched, and you went up, right? That's kind of how it works. Not always, but in a trend, that's kind of what you look for here. So come down, touch, move up. Come down, find support at the 50, move up. Come down, cool off, find a higher low at the 50 or the 60, move up, right? A little bit lower. 1.5, or sorry, 0.005 to 0.052, let's say, is where you'll go, all right? Daily time frame here. I would like it if today closed green. Who cares if I like it, though? The reason why is because I don't want to see you reject this overbought zone. If you reject the overbought zone, that would not be ideal, especially with this double top look. But sometimes in bullish situations, you do reject the overbought zone and find support at the 60, which would be a higher low nonetheless here. Maybe. Maybe you reject the overbought zone and you go to the 50 or the 40 or the oversold zone, and instead of finding support at 0.052 to 0.05 itself, maybe you do go lower. Maybe you do see something lower, and I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. I really do have a hard time seeing you go too much lower because from a high to a low here, your golden ratio is right there. You broke above it to the 786 and found support right at it. I just can't imagine that you would go down to that golden ratio. I can't imagine that you'd go too much below these lows here, or below 0.005 at that for that. I don't know what word to use there. I just can't imagine that you go below 0.005. I think it'd be weird if you went below that golden ratio. You would probably move all the way down to like 0.035 to 0.004 at least, but I just don't see that happening, right? By the way, don't go below your golden ratio on that note, right? It's okay to go lower, but you don't want to come back to that. Again, you want to be productive on your fibs. You don't want to double bottom. You don't want anything like that. Sure, maybe find support at the 0.69, but 0.005 at the most, man. You don't want to go below there. And again, that's all that worry stems from this rejection off the overbought zone, because typically with the rejection off the overbought zone, you go to the 50, not the 60. But in bullish situations, you can bounce off the 60. In non-typical bullish situations, that's what could happen. The MACD looks good overall. A little bit chilly, or right now, like it's chilling. It's not really doing too much. Maybe you come down a little bit, touch tips, and then move up. Stochastics, bullish. So you got bullish, you've got kind of bullish, and you've got a bearish setup. Just don't do anything too irrational to the downside, okay? Hopefully today closes green. And if it does, again, maybe you got 22 hours left in the day. Perhaps what you do is you come down to about 0.052, 0.051, 0.005, something in this area. And then you move up all in the same day and you close the day green. And then tomorrow, Friday, you have a little bit of a spectacular rally. All I believe to know is, regardless of what happens here, whether you move down, whether you move up, whether you move sideways and backwards in time, whatever it is, once you finally do get above the 886 on a daily closing basis, once you get above the 886 on a daily closing basis, not a wicking basis, but a closing basis, 0.06262, when you close a day above there, we should see the pace pick up. Okay? From July 6th to August 7th, you've moved up 164%. You did a 2.6x in 1 month. When I say the pace will pick up, I mean you should see more growth than that over the next month, over the period of the next month. Perhaps you move up to 2 cents, 2.2 cents. If not there, then 3 cents. If not there, then 4.5 cents. But I doubt you move higher. I believe you move higher. I just doubt you move higher than that. But that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.